Welcome to another episode of the Life Story Podcast. Today we will be discussing an essay Godwill wrote entitled Mother, Mother. This essay is about some of his mother's experiences as a mother to two children with albinism. If you wish to read the essay in its entirety, it can be found on our website, lifestory.com. That's spelled LYFSTORY.com. Godwill originally titled his essay A Snut's Dream because his mother had a dream that caused her to think she would have albino children. We will start with the excerpt from the essay about her dream.
At the time she had the dream, my mother was living in my father's village in Chihuahua. She remembers that in the dream, it was daytime during a time of war, as several fighter jets descended upon the village. As the jets sprayed bullets and grenades down on the village people were running away everywhere for safety. And my mother ran towards a nearby river to take shelter underwater. She jumped into the water and took refuge in a tiny cavern within the river. The fighter jets pursued her to the river and continued to rain bullets above her head into the water all around her. They made several passes from up above and then they left. The world above her stood still, and in the water around her, there was only the sound of silence. When she finally came out from under the water, she looked round about her and out towards Chief Samriwa's village. And right there in front of her, she saw 3 albino children walking along the banks of the river. 2 girls and 1 boy. In the dream, a voice asked her if she had seen the 3 albino children, and she replied that she had indeed seen them. She did not know at the time what the dream meant or if it meant anything at all. So that's the dream, the way my mother told me and the way that, I recorded it. Panasha has a question.
Do you know what the dream was about? I mean, what the war was about in the dream?
So the war that she's referencing to in the story is probably the War of Liberation. There was a struggle for the people of Zimbabwe to regain their independence from the colonial British forces. So I think that's the war she's referring to. Yeah, that's Makanaka's got a question now.
Did Gogo think that God sent her that dream? Because, it says there was a voice in the dream, which sounds a lot like some of the, who was it? I think it was Isaiah, that had some of the dreams where God was speaking in them.
I think Gogo would say yes, because Gogo is a Christian, and yes, the only voice you would associate that with would be, the voice coming from God.
Other people see dreams as
a vision
or a prophecy, or they have meaning. And Gogo is one of those people who does put a lot of importance on her dreams.
I think it was God, because after that, sometime later, she did have some albino children.
Like Bubba and Tay Gwen.
Didn't she have 3 albino children?
No, she only had 2.
I have another question. It's not about the dream. In the first paragraph, your mother's name was Masibanda. I was wondering if that actually has a meaning.
It might, but I don't know what that name means. That's not Shona. That name is I'm not sure if it's even Ndebele or some kind of Zulu or one of the Southern African languages, but I don't know what that name means.
We could look it up sometime.
Yes. Okay, so the way I wrote the essay, it starts out talking about just introducing my mother and her mother, and the fact that my mother had a brother, Lovemore, who was albino. Okay, Tatenda.
Why do you think the doctors thought like she would be upset for
Okay.
her own baby? Because most of the people actually didn't want their baby killed.
Okay, so we're jumping into another part of the essay that we probably need to address. So what Tatenda is asking is, when we go to later on in the essay, when I say skip forward several years to when I was born, having delivered her baby, and I'm just going to read again from the essay. Having delivered her baby, like most mothers, my mother was anxious to be united with the newborn child. But when the attending nurses started acting strangely, she tried to raise up to see a child, and they kept telling her to lay still and not to move. But they only made her more panicked. So what's happening in this part of the story is, my mother, after giving birth to me in the hospital, the nurses would not hand her the baby. When you guys were born and I was there, like the very first thing that the nurses did after you guys were born, they would wrap you up and they would place you in your mother's arms. And I don't think that's a new thing. I think even in old days, like in the 70s when I was born, they were doing things like that. But in this case, the nurses would not hand the child over to my mother. They kept doing weird things. They kept moving around. They kept shuffling and they were probing. And all the while, my mother's like, what is going on? I just want to see my baby. And when they eventually hand the baby to her, and that's me, she looks at the baby and she understands that they're all acting so strange because I was an albino child. So that's what's happening, that in that moment when soon after I'm born, the nurses themselves didn't know what to do. Yeah, I don't know how many children with albinism they had seen born in their experience as nurses. So that's kind of what Tatenda's question was. Why didn't the doctor give her the child?
They were probably afraid that
She would not accept it. That's what it actually kind of said.
Yes, they were afraid that my mother would not accept the child.
Tende Kai, what do you need?
Well, a bit after that, a different nurse, asks if she's happy with her baby, and she says yes. And so the nurse goes away and doesn't attend her during her previous hospital stay. So my question was, do you think she cared?
Yeah, that's my mother's experience. Some nurses cared and some nurses just were, I don't know what the right word is, but if a nurse does not attend to you while you're in hospital, especially if you're a new mother and you need help with your child to get around, that just doesn't make you feel good. So I'm not sure what that particular nurse's problem was. Yeah, I'm not sure we don't know what the nurse thought, but she never came back to help my mother during the time that my mother was in that hospital. And it's something that my mother had to deal with. I also talk about how the other women in that ward, in that delivery or recovery room, were not happy with her. So going back all the way back to Makara and how she, made things better for her family by standing up and saying, my children are my children regardless of the color of their skin. There were still people in the 1970s who were not happy when they saw someone giving birth to a child with albinism. And to my mother, being in a delivery and recovery room with other mothers and being the only one with an albino child and feeling like everyone else was disgusted or not happy at seeing you there, it didn't make for a very comfortable stay in the hospital. Now, in her heart, inside, she was happy. She was not disappointed. But just being treated differently because she was the mother of an albino child definitely did not make the hospital stay a happy one.
And the trend continues. Like when she went home, of course, the other children and even Baba Mushanga, he was happy because he had people with albinism in his family as well. But the neighborhood people were the same way. There may have been some that were accepting, but there were, the way this reads, there was almost a majority of the people who still held on to some of the stigma against people with albinism in the neighborhood.
Yeah, my mother, of course, she had friends, like close neighbors and relatives and close friends. They are the first ones to be accepting. But in your neighborhood, not everyone is your friend or your next door neighbor. They're just people around you. And not all of them were as thrilled as, our immediate circle of family and friends at seeing my mother show up with an albino child. And your mom just made a reference to Baba Mushanga. Okay, Baba Mushanga is my father. To you guys, he's Sekuro. When I was born, that was a month after my brother Nkululeko was born. So when word got to my father, who was spending time with Nkululeko, because Nkululeko was a baby too, and he was being there for him. When word got to him and they told him that I had been born and I was albino, and he made haste to come to that hospital, and that's what my mother has told me, that he came and he's like, let me see my son. And of course he sees me and he's happy. And my mother's like, he looks exactly like my brother, Love More. And my father's like, no way. He is definitely a Mushonga. He's endued, so he looks like my uncle, Chirimugore. So
Gore, the guy who means the cloud or something?
Yes.
Chirimugore.
I've seen pictures of him.
You've seen pictures of my brother Nkululeko,
but I haven't met.
No, you haven't met him.
Okay, now can I say my
I kept
But what I was gonna say is that was a good moment for both my parents, right?
Yeah.
Because they were both happy to have this child. You can imagine that there were when you're carrying a child, you don't know what color it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So you can imagine there's some mothers who are surprised when they have an albino child. And then the husband comes and the husband is displeased to see the albino child. But this was a really, really good moment for both my parents. My mother could look to her side of the family and she could say, oh, this is good. This child looks exactly like my brother. And my father could look to his family and he could say, this looks like my uncle, Gore, and my aunt, Toko, and he had other cousins. Yes, Toko means monkey. And he had other cousins. So this was really, for our family, for my family, this was nothing but a joyous moment. Okay, I think Panache has a question now.
How long did he stay there?
At the hospital?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but back then, I don't think people stayed in the hospital for too long. I cannot remember how long the hospital stay was. I don't think my father stayed in the hospital. When you guys were born, I've stayed in the hospitals with your mom, maybe overnight or 2 nights, and then they released the mom and the baby to go home. But I don't know how things were done back then. Okay, Tatenda.
What does Nkululeko mean?
Nkululeko means freedom. So his name means freedom. And Tatenda?
Tendakai.
Oh, Tendakai.
Is every single hospital stay the same amount of time?
You can ask your mother that one. She can give you an answer.
Like when a baby's sick? No, not.
Well,
You mean when a baby's born, like 2 days or something?
it might not be the same. Like
It
when mom had
depends
the
on
twins.
the situation.
No,
Twins.
like back then, would every single hospital stay have to be the same?
No, it would depend on the situation. Is the mother healthy? Is the baby healthy? And so on.
Or is the baby
But
sick?
But Baba was a baby, so he doesn't know how many days Gogo stayed in the hospital.
Oh
Gogo
yeah,
may not
and
even
there's
remember.
one situation. It's like, does the mother smoke? Does she take drugs? That is sometimes the problem.
Okay.
We're getting off track. And
Okay, Panache, what's your question?
Does his name Freedom relate to anything?
Like,
Well, he was born in 1978, same as myself. And back then, people were fighting for freedom, right? So we're fighting for independence for the nation, which was then Rhodesia. I can see how his mom might have thought like it's a good thing to name him Freedom because freedom is what's on everybody's mind.
Wasn't Kuleko your uncle or something?
Kuleko is my brother.
Oh,
well,
More
half
like-
brother.
Stepbrother?
So half brother, you could say that, but he is my brother. I think my father and my parents, and just culturally, we're not raised with too many half this, second that. So Uncle Lego is my father's son, and from the age of 10, he lived in with us in my father's house. So we are just brothers. I would never go around and tell people that's my half brother. As a child or even as an adult, you just call your brother your brother. That's a cultural thing. Your brother is your brother. You may have different mothers, but your brother is your brother and your sister is your sister.
Well, what does love more mean?
Love more. More
Love
love.
more is yeah, exactly.
More
It's
love
more like-
or love people more.
Kind of like
Love
God
more.
will.
Oh,
Is
but love more is easier to understand because it's just like more love, love more.
Love more is just what it
Does-
says.
does God will means God's
Like
will?
God's will be done.
Yes, exactly like Makanaka said.
Isn't Love More Sakura's name?
Yes, so that's a good point too. Sakuru's name is Lovemore, and my uncle's name was Lovemore. So my mother had two people named Lovemore in her life, as did I. I had an uncle named Lovemore, and my father's name is Lovemore. Okay, so
If we're talking about how you and eventually a few years later, Tete Gwen being albino affected Gogo's life, then there is a passage where it talks about how it affected her livelihood.
yeah, so my mother's job, she was self-employed. At home, she would knit things, she would sew things, she would do some crocheting, and then she would take the things that she made with her hands to sell them, and she would go around the country. Sometimes they were mining towns, and
Farming
sometimes they were-
villages. Like farming villages
yes,
too. I think is what you
not
said.
villages, not villages. You want to go not to a village. You want to go to a place where there are actual big farms where they employ a lot of people that stay on the farm. They work for the owner of the farm. So she would go to those places, and that's where she would sell the things that she made with her hands. And she'd been doing this kind of work before I was born. So she would be taking all of her things, traveling by bus, by train. She would sell those things, and sometimes she would do like a credit. She would leave the things with the customers, and she would return a month, 2, 3 later, and then she would collect her money. And before I was born, she would go out and do all of this work. But when I was born, and she went out again to sell and to collect the money, and she found out that people were not receptive to her as they had been before she came with an albino child, strapped to her back.
I think not receptive is an understatement when they would take some of the things they had purchased from her before and throw it outside in some cases.
Yes, she ran into that. When you're carrying a child and you go to someone's house and you say, "Hey, I'd like to make some porridge for my son," and before I was born, they would gladly let her boil some water, boil some milk, and mix up the food for the child. And they would say, "Hey, you can sit here. Maybe it's under a tree or by the side of the house." When she showed up with me, all of that stopped people would not allow her to get near their homes. And like your mom said, instead of paying her for the stuff that she'd given to them on credit, they would take that stuff and throw it back at her. So it made her life and her work very difficult, if not impossible.
I remember something from the essay. There was actually these people, like this one house, that they would still let her do that.
Because she had an albino son. That lady had an albino child too.
Yeah, so there was the one family where the husband and the wife had an albino child. But again, it's rare. It was rare then to find many families, loving families of albino children. But she did come across at least one family where they had an albino child, and they were kind to her, and they allowed her to continue to visit with them.
Okay,
when she was around.
Panashe's a question.
Okay, Panashe.
Did she ever think of getting a new job?
Since her job was one that she created for herself, and my mom, I was one of the youngest child she had. She had 8 children ultimately. I was number 7. So the work that she could do had to be flexible. So she could not go and look for work like in an office and still be able to take care of us. Now, mothers can do that. Many mothers have done that. But the way that my parents had set up our house, my mother was the one parent at home like 99% of the time. So she could leave and go do some things, but she had to be within the home a lot of the time to make sure the home was managed correctly. Yeah, sure.
Did she ever leave her home? I mean, like, leave you home?
As a baby?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. She has never mentioned. Okay, Chandika, do you have a question?
My question was, how old is your mother?
Gogo is 74 years old now. But when I was born, she was, if I'm 43 and you do the math, she was about
34.
34? Not 31?
About.
Okay. Not everything was bad all the time. There's a story about the young man, on the bus. The young man the young guy from university. My mother was on the bus. She was going somewhere, and she had me with her. And when you get on the bus, you have the seats where you can sit 2 people, and then the other seats where you can sit 3 people. And she was sitting on one of those seats, and I think it's one for 3 people.
Yeah.
And she was on this bus for a long trip, and no one would sit next to her. And these are the long trips, and I've been on those long trips with Gogo. When I was a child, we went to visit my grandmother in Gokwe. It's another village place in Zimbabwe. Those are long trips. You go there, it's almost like all day on the bus, and maybe different buses. So the bus has to stop, from time to time, so that people get off, they use the restrooms, they buy food, they get to walk around. And on this one trip, no one would sit next to my mother. Even though, there were people who could have. And then this young man, he gets on the bus and he sees what the other passengers are doing. And the next time the bus stops, he gets off the bus, he goes into one of the stores, and he comes back with just all kinds of goodies. And he tells my mother, these goodies are for you and for my brother. And he's calling me his brother. And he just did that because he had compassion in his heart towards her. And he did not think that what the other passengers on the bus were doing was right. So there were some bright moments, where strangers did do something that made her feel comfortable to be wherever she might have been.
There are some funnier parts in this essay, like how you had to fight sometimes, and how it says you're famous for your high kicks, flying shoe combat style.
Yeah.
That's skipping ahead to the grade school years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Where
Flying shoe combat style.
yeah. So yeah, once I was in school, my mother could not be with me all the time. Now I can tell you that on day one, like most parents, my mother took me to school and she walked with me into my classroom and she saw where I was going to sit. I mean, she did that for me because I was not looking forward to it. Before first grade, my parents tried to enroll me into what was called crash then, where like kindergarten or pre-K,
Okay.
and I wouldn't go. So on for one of those schools, they took me and Teta Gwen to a daycare class or kindergarten, whatever.
and he wouldn't go inside.
And I wouldn't
all
go
day.
inside. I just spent all day just on the swings, just swinging. And Teta Gwen was the nice one. She went and sat in, but we didn't go for day 2. That was the end of our pre-K and kindergarten experience. So on day 1, Gogo walked me into primary school
Probably to make sure you would go
to
in.
make sure that I would go in and sit and stay.
And not stay on the swing set all day.
Yes, but she talked to my teachers and tried to, make things easy. But I got this story is not always about me getting picked on, but I got picked on because some of the kids had never seen an albino child and they didn't know how to relate. So, and I didn't want to fight, but there were times when things get so personal that they would start the fights. And I would fight back. And yes, that's when I got very famous for my
Shin
high
kicks.
my shin, my shin kicks and my high flying shoes. Because sometimes when I went to kick someone, my shoe would just come off my foot and just go, and then you'd never know where to land it, and I'd have to go find it.
Did
So
it sometimes actually hit the person?
sometimes it hit nobody. Sometimes it just went flying into the air, and I would have to go find it. And I had my friend Bernard. Sometimes he would fight for me. Bernard is passed away now. And another friend of mine, Marshall, he would fight for me. A few fights. But yeah, my mother went with me, and she made it a point to meet all my teachers, and she would bring them fruits and vegetables, and some gifts.
And cakes and pops.
And cakes and pop, yes. And
Baba?
sometimes I'll just see my mom walking from the open door, and I would not even know what she was doing at school, but she was probably just checking in on me sometimes, and sometimes she'd walk into class and give me a banana. Not many parents did that. But Gogo would show up at school to make sure that I was, represented.
Or in the class.
That everybody knew that I had what do you call the person who stands up for you?
Teacher?
Advocate.
An advocate for my rights.
Or she was coming to check in to see if you're even in the class still.
She probably wanted to give you make you still be healthy, but do you think that she actually just made it a point that you should always treat your kid good, even if it's an albino child?
I think she did. Yes. I don't think she loved me any more than she loved my other siblings who are not albino. I think Gogo just wanted to make it a point that, parents should love
your
their children.
child?
Yes. Yes, Tanakai.
Why did you start street fighting?
I did not start street fighting.
He only did school fighting and stuff.
In self-defense.
I did not start street fighting, but if you cannot make it home without someone calling you a name or getting in your way, there are children who literally blocked the pathway that I was walking on. They'll just stand right there. And if I tried to go to find another way home, I would find them there as well. There were times when I could actually see my house, but there would be a kid standing between me and the house. And I would try to run around them, but if I'm not fast enough, they're going to attack on me. And if that happens, we end up fighting. And those fights were not my idea. They just were part of what I had to
Did
deal
you
with.
ever have to tell the teacher? Did you ever have to tell the teacher?
Things that happened on the way home, no. Things that happened at school, yes.
Did your mom ever have to deal with the kid who was trying to by you, like when you're near your home?
No, my mother did not engage in any of those fights, but my father did. So things that happened at school, I would tell my mother, and she would come and like talk to my teachers and whatever. Things that happened on the streets, however, and I told my father, he would handle them personally.
And no one wanted that to happen.
No
People
one-
were afraid.
There was a story of when he chased one of your brothers around the neighborhood yelling and holding a brick. And your brother was pelting away because he had a girlfriend in his car.
There are many stories like that.
Girlfriends.
Oh, right. He had a whole bunch of those.
Not in the same kind at the same time, but
No.
but this story, what your mother's trying to say is true. My father, he came to be known by us and our friends as Buddy Spencer, and Buddy Spencer is this actor from I think the 1980s and maybe 70s. He was in some of the action movies, and he was like boxing and stuff. So they nicknamed our father Buddy Spencer because my father was a fighter.
Did he
And
ever?
if he ever confronted one of the younger boys, you know,
they
you
would
don't
not
want to see
harass you anymore.
that. Some people never learn, so they would keep doing it.
And
But-
keep getting in trouble with your father.
yes, but you
Did your father ever spank one of them?
no, you don't spank other people's children.
Okay. But
Yeah.
did he ever talk to the other people's children
He absolutely
in
did.
front of the kid?
Yes, he absolutely did. Yes, my father was a very fearless man, but he was feared by many.
I wish I could have seen him.
I wish you guys had the chance to meet him.
I would have wanted to see him in action.
Yeah, by the time you guys would have met him, he was mellow. He wasn't doing any of. He wasn't the
Because the
He wasn't
kid,
chasing
he
people
wasn't
around
the
with a
neighborhood
brick.
watchman anymore. chasing
either
people
they
around.
have moved out or they had to learn their lesson.
Yes.
I do not know why anyone would even try to pick on you if they know you can tell your dad.
And you said Buddy Spencer is what they called him?
That's what we called him. We called him Dara Buddy Spencer. He was an action hero. action packed.
One that chases his sons when they put their girlfriends in his cars. With
If he
Didn't
had
your-
a new life, did you ever tell him he's like a boxer?
I don't think we ever told our father that.
That might have not have been a good thing to do.
That's something we say it amongst ourselves. You probably knew, but we never said it to his face.
Because then you might be the one getting a stern talking to. And since you're his child, you get a spanking too.
Yes. But I mean, this essay was about my mother, and some of the things that she had to deal with, and some of the things that people in our neighborhood, in our lives, even strangers, did or said to her, and how she overcame some of those struggles and challenges of raising two young albino children.
In the end, you even say this, in the end, that dream. So in the end, that dream that she had at the beginning of your essay, where in the dream she sees 3 albino children, part of it came true. It was 1 boy, 1 girl. The other part is she never did have that 3rd albino child. And it could be because after Gwen, she got really sick and it would have been nearly impossible for her to carry a pregnancy at that time.
Yeah, and that's true. So she miscarried quite a few times because she got really, really, really sick.
So she
there's-
could have had more, but she miscarried?
That's true. That's what happened. Yes. And we don't know if the other ones would have been albino or not, but she believed that, that dream could come true. But it obviously didn't. But she would have loved to have had the 3rd child and for that child to be albino as well. I always think about, when I talk about my mother, I tell you guys all these things, like she's like a hero to me and all the things she stood for. But there was one time when I was a child and when I did not really live up to that, I can remember one time when I was in in 7th grade. That was my last year of primary school. And it was the prize giving day. And on the prize giving day, what happens is all the parents can come to school and they can meet the teachers. And towards the end of the day, there's this big ceremony where the top 3 students in every class get a prize, and the prize is a book. So you go from grade 1 to grade 7, and in grade 1, you may have classes A, B, C, and D. And the top 3 students in each class, they get called number 3, number 2, number 1, and each one goes up to the stage and they get a book, and then they walk off the stage. And when you walk off the stage, your family is there and they're cheering for you. And sometimes you run off the stage, you jump up into the air, and then they catch you. It's just a fun time. And when I was in 7th grade, it was the last prize giving day. And I was like the first in my class, like number 1 in my class, but I was also going to be like the number 1 in my grade. Before that day, Gogo, who had been sick, and I did not understand it because, I was 12 or 13 and I was all about myself at that age. Gogo had told me, she wasn't going to make it. But the reason she told me why she wasn't going to make it is because I was part of this marimba band and she didn't want me to be in the marimba band. But I don't think that's really the reason why. I think the reason she couldn't make it was that she was just sick. And she could not walk, she couldn't get around. So when I go to my prize giving day and they call my name, and first of all, for being first in my class. So I go up to the stage, Kuziwa Kwashe, Godroom Shonga, class 7D, number 1. And I go up to the stage, and I'd done that several times. I'd been given prizes before, and someone had always showed up for me. But on this day, I walk up to the stage, and there's no one cheering for me. It's like dead silence. And then, of course, I'm disappointed. And then they have to call me a second time because I'm the overall number 1 in my grade. Class of 1991, grade 7, overall best student. Kuzuba Kwashe, Godroom Mushanga. And it's silence. Some of my friends clapped for me, and some people might have clapped and said, but she wasn't there that one day. And I remember going home just being upset and being mad. And I think I held on to that feeling for quite some time. And I think it's in this essay. If it's not in this essay, it's in a different essay where I talk about she got so sick that she could have died. And here I am, I'm busy fighting with my father about watching TV and all the things that, a young teenager would think they're more important. And I regret that. I regret as a young child taking her for granted sometimes. I mean, like I said, the story, I don't want to be like, yeah, she's perfect all the way, 100% of the time. But she's been there in my corner every step of the way. And the one time that she couldn't be there, somehow in my own mind, I forgot all the many times that she'd been there. And I say this, and it makes sense for me to say this to you guys because your mother is here. And when I met her, she was going to college to become a nurse. And once we started having our family, you guys, and our family was growing, your mother, she's the one who came to me and brought the subject to me that she felt that she would like to go ahead and focus on you guys, at least get you guys into school. That was thought number 1. She would be more than happy if I kept working And she focused on you guys to be at home with you until we got all of you into school. Then as you guys know, things changed. And we had to make another decision. Okay, the education you were getting from public school was not meeting your needs, And she came to me and she said, I would like to homeschool the kids. And that was not a decision that we'd ever considered, ever. And up to now, I think it's been 4 or 5 years that we've been homeschooling you guys.
Yeah.
We started year 5 a month ago. And almost a month.
And I want you guys to recognize, my mother was my hero. And in this case, I think your mother has made a sacrifice for you. Don't become the way I became at 12, that if one thing doesn't go the way you think it should, that you throw away all the good things that ever happened. It took me, I think, 2 years to get past that and to realize I was being foolish and selfish because I nearly lost my mother. And if I'd lost her when I was 14, the last memory of her would be she didn't show up for me when I was in 7th grade. Therefore, I am mad and upset. So I want you guys to just take from this that your mother is being the best mother for you. And don't take that for granted. And if one day, something doesn't go your way the way you think it ought to, don't be foolish and throw away all the good things and ignore all that she's done for you. Because she could be right now a nurse, just living out her dreams in her own career. But she has chosen to put you guys first. And I think that's what, all mothers do, whether they have a full-time job or not. They're always putting their children first. And she's done it this way for you guys.
Okay.
This wasn't supposed to be about me, by the way.
No, it wasn't. But, it's true. It's true, too, because this is our family. And it can't just be all about my story. These guys have to, it's part of their story as well. I am glad my mother has been there for me throughout all the stages of my life. I hope I have become a son worthy of a fight for a dream that only she could have handled with such grace. And all I'm saying is I love my mother, and I am proud of just her courage to love me because, she believed it was the right thing to do. I'm glad she did it. And I've talked about her inspiration to other parents in other stories. So I'm glad she did it for me, though. I think this is...
what
Go ahead.
this essay reminds me of?
What?
Isn't there a song, we can definitely cut this out.
Okay.
Mama, 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 mama.
Yeah, Nyasha has it on a CD.
Mama.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a song like that. Okay, who's going to sign us out
Papa
today?
Sam.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's always the twins.
Let's hear it.
This is the end of the 4th Love Story podcast. I hope you enjoy.
Don't touch your microphone.
I know. And we will see you next time. Please. Did you want to start the thumbs up?
Yes.
Then give us a thumbs up.
It's a follow this time. I don't have a thumbs up, but I have a like and a follow. So the thumbs up is the like.
Like us and follow us.
Like us and follow us.
Available on Spotify.
And don't spell LIFE. It's
Yeah.
actually LYFSTORY.
According to Makanaka, it's available on Spotify
It is.
and Apple Play
And Twitter.
and Twitter
Facebook,
and
right?
LinkedIn and Instagram.
You can
Basically
look
everywhere that
and
you
you
want.